Hi there and welcome to the channel, and in this video I'll share with you some of the reading I'll be doing for the two classes I'm taking this semester. Now, for anyone unfamiliar with the fact, I'm currently doing a PhD. I'm in my third year at National Taiwan University. But before we come on to that, one brief item of channel news. A huge thank you to Lucy from California for your generous donation, and for anyone else who wishes to support the channel, you may do so by following the link in the description or on the channel homepage. Okay, now we're ready to talk about the two classes I'm going to take. So the first class engages with something it calls the Global Renaissance, which basically amounts to going back to the age of Shakespeare to look at interactions between England and other parts of the world, and at various aspects of this interaction, be they racial, political, or economic. And so we've been asked to purchase this book, Christopher Marlowe, The Complete Plays, with a view to reading two of the plays contained therein. On the cover, as you can see, there is a picture from his most famous work, Dr. Faustus. But if you buy this book, you'll also get Dido, Queen of Carthage, Tamburlaine the Great Parts 1 and 2, The Duke of Malta, Edward II, and the Massacre at Paris. So in my view, well worth owning. And by way of a warm-up, I've already read the first offering, Dido, Queen of Carthage, and what this does is rewrite books 1, 2 and 4 of Virgil's Aeneid in blank verse, and it's only 70 pages or so. You can read it in an afternoon, and the principal interest here is the way in which Marlowe reshapes the role of Dido, and indeed the climax is rather different to that found in Virgil. So anyone interested in Virgil may find that interesting too. But for the class itself, we're going to read Tamburlaine the Great, parts 1 and 2. Now, in modern parlance, Tamburlaine would be, I suppose, a warlord, and he resides somewhere around modern day Iran. And at the start, he's a lowly shepherd, but he has great ambitions. Indeed, he believes that God has chosen him to be the ruler of the world. So his path to power flows from the sword he holds in his right hand and the personal magnetism which quickly attracts an army of followers. So he quickly seizes control of Persia, and then the action consists of greater and greater conquests as he pursues his overarching ambition. And I found this really satisfying. It's rather disappointing though, when you look at the Middle East and parts of Africa today, that Tamburlaine's path to power remains a viable one for people to follow in our contemporary world. Indeed, I believe that the current head of the state of Syria pursued a very similar path to power, scrambling over the dead bodies of his enemies. It also curiously reminded me of one of my favorite movies, Sin City, particularly the section with the Mickey Rourke character, who demonstrates this similar uncompromising ambition to get what he wants, and he doesn't care how many people he has to kill to achieve his aim. So if you enjoyed Sin City, strangely, you might enjoy reading this verse drama from 500 years ago. Okay, as I said, we're looking at the age of Shakespeare, so naturally we're going to read some plays by the Bard, and anyone who's been following the channel in recent months will know I'm already partway through a personal project of reading all of Shakespeare's 38 or so plays, and as part of that I've already read the 3 that the professor has chosen. But they are, firstly, The Tempest, one of my absolute favourites. It may also be one, if not the shortest of Shakespeare's plays, so truly magical. And then we have Othello, which I recommended as the place to start if you want to get into Shakespeare, because this one has a very small cast, and it also has an excellent story, and it's full basically of action. So I strongly recommend Othello for first-time readers of Shakespeare. And then finally, I only just finished this. It is The Merchant of Venice, which I first read in the classroom at high school. What is it? Some 35 years ago. And at that time, it completely baffled me. But rereading it this last week or so, I greatly enjoyed it. Some magnificent speeches in here. Okay, so that is the first class. The second one is a seminar on Irish literature. The focus here is on modernism, and so we're going to begin by reading some poems by W.B. Yeats. We haven't been given a set text to purchase, so hopefully the poems we need to read are in this book, which is a Penguin Classics, selected poems with a beautiful castle adorning the cover, or in this book, selected poems and 3 plays. And I do know we're going to read a few of the plays. Again, I'm not sure if I've got the right ones in here. What I do know is that Yeats's plays are quite short. Some of them are only 20 or 30 pages or so. So we're not looking at a mountain of reading. And revisiting these poems as preparation for the class, I was rather disappointed by how spare the language is. And also, they're rather short, and I prefer longer poems. But we'll see what the professor says. And actually, the structure of this course is very interesting, unique in fact, because each week we're going to have a guest speaker, a professor who is an expert on the particular writer that we're looking at. So I'm really excited. I think there's something wonderful about that kind of structure to the course. I can't imagine any other way I could schedule 12 weeks of interactions with experts on various Irish writers. Yes, excellent. And then we're going to look at Joyce's Ulysses, not all of it, I hasten to add. And I'm going to use this Penguin annotated student edition. And the section we've been asked to read is chapter 15 on Circe. And that draws upon book 10 of Homer's Odyssey, which I have in this Fitzgerald translation. And it's titled in here, The Grace of the Witch. And what you'll notice if you read Homer's text, or the translation, is that it's very short. It's only 10 pages or so. But in Joyce's hands, it becomes something far, far longer, as one would expect. And I also have, to help me, hopefully, Richard Ellman's equally thick biography of Joyce. So I'll go through here and see if there's anything connected to the Circe episode by way of context, by way of background. Okay, so that's the reading for the first few weeks of my classes. And before I go, I'll just show you what I'm reading for my own pleasure right now, and then I'll say goodbye. So first up, I have this Robert Graves translation of The Golden Ass, which is sometimes labelled the first novel, or at least the first extant novel, written in Latin, I believe. And this is very interesting. It's very much the picaresque tradition. So you follow this character, Lucius, who halfway through does indeed get transformed into an ass and have all kinds of adventures. And it's also notable for containing the Cupid and Psyche story, which I've spoken about previously on the channel, but which is a truly magnificent creation of Apuleius. And there's a very interesting introduction by Robert Graves too, who was an excellent scholar, a wonderful poet, and a wonderful writer of prose. So I'm greatly enjoying that. And then life writing, and this is going to be the subject of an upcoming video for the channel, the next in the life writing series, and it is Keith Vaughan's Journals, 1939 to 1977. There aren't many sketches in here, sadly, but there are just a few at the end and beginning of each chapter. But it's his prose which is the chief attraction here, and this takes you through his wartime years, his successful decade, which was the 50s, and now I'm just getting into the 60s. But there's a very interesting entry on his visit to Mexico, and this is just a very thoughtful book. Actually, this one is quite expensive. If you go online and try to buy it, I guess it's going to cost about $40, but you're not really going to pick it up in any used bookstores. So Keith Vaughan, the artist, with his journals. And finally, I'm reading a French text, and it is a set of crime novels by a crime writing partnership, and they are Beaulieu and Nasajek, and they wrote together for about, I think, 3 or 4 decades, and they're psychological thrillers, and I'm only into chapter 1 on here, but I'm greatly enjoying them. Many to enjoy there. Oh, I should mention one piece of trivia. They wrote the crime novel which was turned into Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock. So such is their pedigree. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to say for now. So as promised, I will bid you farewell. So until the next time, be safe, be strong, nanu nanu.